Hi, I'm Jacob Chadwick, and I did my project on variable data printing. Variable data printing is basically you have static data and variable data. Static data doesn't change between images, variable data does. So if you look here in the picture with the golf cards, the logo is the same, but the text changes. That's variable data. So part of my project is I wanted to explain the difference in variable data printing with lithography and xerography. Lithography and xerography printing. There we go. And variable data printing's kind of been around ever since printing first started, if you think about it. Switching out individual letters on a type press is kind of like variable data printing, except on a very small scale. But variable data printing's really come out in modern time because of the advent of technology, making it a lot faster and a lot more economical for large runs, especially for mailers. So you might be asking yourself, what is lithography? Lithography started off as a stone, a flat stone that people would put a repellent of some sort, either grease or oil, into areas that they didn't want the ink to go. And then they would coat it with ink and press that against paper. And the parts that had the grease would be white, or the same color as the paper, and everything else would have ink on it. So if you look here in this picture, this is an example of lithography. This it's not quite a stone per se, but it's still kind of like a rock, and you can see that it has the. This looks like maybe not the negative. This looks like maybe yeah, I don't know. Anyways, you can see the image on it. So basically, all the ink would go into the white spots, because the black spots are the grease or oil, which would repel the ink. And for this, it's usually plate mounted, or it's a plate engraved that's then mounted onto a cylinder, or it's just a cylinder to start off with. And lithography can be variable, which is really hard since the plate or cylinder or the image area is created before the machine's even turned on. But in the patent that I was reading about and in part of my report, I explained how you can turn a lithography press into a variable data machine by having the image area be created inline right before the impression. This process went through of applying a photosensitive sensitive layer to the cylinder, etching it, and then removing that photosensitive layer, and then reapplying it all during an impression, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. Now, xerography is pretty crazy. It's all about electrical charges. As you can see here in this diagram, you start off with this big old belt, and here it starts at charging. That's where the whole process starts. And it goes through charging. The whole belt gains a charge. Exposure is exposed usually to a laser, which removes the charge in certain areas, which is like grease or repellent. It creates the non-image areas, and then the belt goes past all the different inks, and it attracts the ink through the charge, and then once all the ink is on the belt, it gets put to the paper transfer belt. Well, not always. Oh, no, never mind. That is. And then it gets put onto the paper, and then the paper goes through a fuser and it gets baked on. Now, xerography printing is variable printing in its modern form because it's able to change the image area inline before every single impression. So it not only can it do variable printing as in for data like text, like you saw in the opening slide, but it can also do variable printing as in like it can go from a 4x6 postcard all the way up to 11x17 poster, all the way down to like a weird rectangle real sorry, rectangles aren't weird, a weird triangle shape or a weird circle shape. It can do all kinds of stuff as long as you set it up beforehand. Like I mentioned before, the resources I used were US patents. I thought it was really interesting. I've never actually looked at a patent before, but both these patents were to improve the variable printing process. One of them was software that helped, the word is compressed. This software helped compress the information, that way the files were smaller and easier to process. The other one was a patent on making a lithography press turn into a variable data press by applying the photosensitive layer, etching it, printing and then removing it and reapplying it, which I thought was pretty fascinating. In conclusion, my findings were that variable data printing is determined on when the image area is created. If it's created before the press is even turned on, it's going to be really hard. But if the image area is created in line before each and every single impression and it changes, then it's really easy to have variable data printing and really economical.